The Conservatives are now the only major party that wants to keep the two-child benefit cap. In the polls, they're now well behind both Labour, who are looking at removing it, and Reform, who say they'd scrap the policy. So, is the official opposition now outflanked to both left and right and at risk of sliding into irrelevance? Well, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick was out challenging fare dodgers on the tube this week and made sure it was filmed and played big on social media. I spoke to him earlier. Robert Jenrick, we don't know exactly what the government's going to unveil tomorrow, but do you welcome the signs that they want to push spending up to 3% of GDP for defence, improve housing for service families and so on?
Well, good morning, Trevor. Look, we live in a very dangerous world, and so, of course, we welcome any extra investment in defence. We have threats on so many different levels, not just to our allies like Ukraine and the eastern borders of Europe, but to ourselves, where Russian aggression is seen all the time, whether it's their destroyers provocatively sailing up the English Channel, whether it's the work that they're doing to undermine our cables at sea, whether it's their aircraft flying close to our airspace. We need to ensure that the armed forces has the resources that they need to meet these challenges. And so reaffirming the commitment to 2.5% is a welcome step. We want to see the UK reach 3% within this Parliament. We think that 2034 is a long time to wait, given the gravity of the situation. And whilst, of course, I think that John Healey is a good man who I've known for a very long time, doing what needs to be done in the national interest, I am sceptical as to whether Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is going to make good on these promises. Everything that she
You wanted to go further and faster, as the phrase goes.
Well, since the general election, all I can see are broken promises from Rachel Reeves. She said she wasn't going to change winter fuel allowance, she has. She wasn't going to hike taxes, she has done. And from a defence perspective, because this is serious, she's delayed this review. It was supposed to happen in the spring. It's taken months more. And part of the review is that there's going to be a restocking of munitions that have been given to Ukraine and the building of factories. Why didn't that begin a year ago?
To be fair,
it's because of Rachel Reeves and the Treasury.
To be fair, your party has some responsibility. It's been 36 years since the Berlin Wall came down and the Cold War ended. Tories were in government for 22 of those 36 years. Our capabilities fell dramatically, spending fell. How's a party that prides itself on being strong on defence allowed that to happen?
Well, look, I am the first person to acknowledge the mistakes of the last Conservative government. At the end of the day, I resigned from the Cabinet 2 years ago because I saw them. On defence, yes, we should have spent more, and there was naivety across the political spectrum, not just in our own country, but across Europe that's left us militarily weak. We've got to change that now. And to me, waiting 9 years to reach 3% seems a very long time in the circumstances.
All right, that's clear. Let's come on to your particular area, criminal justice. You criticised the Justice Secretary's plans to make space in prisons by early release. What would you have done instead?
Well, our prisons are in a crisis right now, and we do need to find extra spaces. The Justice Secretary said that she needs to find around 9,500 additional places in the coming years, and she presents it as having no choice but to release prisoners early, dangerous people onto our streets. If you saw last week...
But you didn't build prison places when you had the chance.
Well, we built...
What would you do now?
We actually built 13,000 extra prison places. The mistake was decommissioning the old Victorian jails too quickly. But you're right, we should have built more prisons. What we need to do now is get the 10,800 foreign national offenders who are in our prisons out of our country. If the Justice Secretary brought forward emergency legislation to disapply the human rights laws, for example, to do that, we would back her tomorrow. We should be tackling the 17,800 people who are in prison on remand awaiting their trial. But instead of getting the court sitting 7 days a week, she's actually turning down sitting days that the Lady Chief Justice, the most senior person in the judiciary, has offered her. Well, if she said she'd fix that, we'd back her tomorrow.
As you know...
If I could just finish the point, what she is reaching for is the easy lever. No. And that is going to make the public less safe.
As you know, there are many arguments about the machinery by which the Lady Chief Justice has raised. But on the foreign prisoners thing, how do you get rid of those 10,000 if, for example, the Jamaicans or the Nigerians or the Italians don't want them back?
Well, firstly,
you're just going to dump them on on the airport steps, or what?
Well, firstly, you can sign prisoner transfer agreements. We did. We did with countries like Albania, for example, when I was a Home Office
like
minister.
Albania. You didn't get one with the Italians. You haven't got one with the Jamaicans.
You can sign more. Labour has signed none since they came into office.
You can, but you didn't. My point is...
Well, we did sign some. But the point that you're making is right. What I want to see is us use every lever of the British state to get this over the line. Why are we giving visas? Why are we giving foreign aid, frankly, to some countries that will not take back their own criminals? That is what I would do. I've been proposing this for a long time. That is our policy. And one of the big impediments to getting these people out of our country are our human rights laws. Okay. We are saying we'll disapply the Human Rights Act, we'll get these people out of our country.
I'm only interrupting you because I want to get on to the thing that you want to talk about, which is that you've proposed the arming of prison officers to, and I'm quoting here, crack down on Islamist terrorists in jail. How's that going to work? Would the policy apply only to prisons where there is a certain percentage of Islamist terrorists, or all jails? How's that work?
Well, at the moment, there are some very, very dangerous people in our high-security prisons. You've seen just in the last few months a dangerous prisoner like Axel Rudakabana attack, allegedly, a prison officer, the Southport killer. You saw Hashim Abedi, an Islamist terrorist, allegedly attack a prison officer. These people are held in our maximum security jails. And at the moment, they're running riot. We are losing control of those prisons. And I want to ensure that we take back control of them. That's why, because the government doesn't seem to be doing anything, I commissioned a leading expert, Ian Aitchison, to do a review. So we give the government recommendations, because my fear, Trevor, is that if we do nothing, a prison officer will get killed. And don't just take my word for it. That's what the Chief Inspector of Prisons themselves have said.
If I may say so, you're answering a different question to the one I asked you.
Well, let me answer your question directly.
You're going to crack down on Islamist terrorists in jail. How do you decide which jails to crack down on, or within... I mean, how do
what we're talking about here is maximum security prisons.
Well, why did you say Islamist terrorists in jail? Why didn't you just say maximum security prisons?
Well, it does actually say that in the work that we've done.
I've read your press release.
It does say that. But let me answer
the headline.
Let me answer what we're proposing here. What we're saying is, in those maximum security prisons, where you're dealing with extreme risk individuals, let's ensure the officers have what they need. Give them tasers, give them stun grenades, give them baton runs, and give them access to lethal weapons.
And you're going to give them guns
extreme
as well?
situations. Yes, not prison officers walking the wings of prisons, but enable them to have access to weapons in extreme situations. And the Chief Inspector of Prisons himself, Charlie Taylor, has said that he can see a situation where people like Islamist terrorists get access through drones to weapons, to explosives, hold prison officers hostage, even kill officers. This, Trevor, is going to happen unless the government take action.
We could carry on talking about this, but obviously I want to talk to you about the Action Man videos that you've issued. This week is catching fare dodgers.
I've been called everything from a vigilante to Batman in the last few days.
Well, you know, people are talking about you. That's success in politics. But I just want to get clear about something. Was the point of the video this week a criticism of fare dodgers or of the police? You point out there are 8 police officers standing about down there doing nothing. Who is this actually aimed at?
Well, it's both the fare dodgers and the authorities that are supposed to be taking action against it, particularly in London's case, the do-nothing Mayor Sadiq Khan. Look, I was fed up. I could see that people were dodging their fares, and law-abiding, fare-paying people see that, and they feel silly. They feel foolish. Why are we paying when other people are getting away with it? And it speaks to a broader truth to me that you see graffiti, you've got mobile phone theft, you've got shoplifting. You've got these things happening all around us, and there is a growing sense that they're being decriminalised. So I want the authorities to step up and take action.
OK. As I was watching it, the words... I've acquired a very particular set of skills that make me a nightmare for people like you, occurred in my mind. You'll know the reference, I imagine. But is this a new Robert Jenrick pitching for something? Leader of the Conservative Party, Mayor of London?
No, I'm just trying to do my job as Shadow Justice Secretary. And I do think that, you know, you can wear a suit, you can be in Westminster, you can do great interviews with individuals like yourself, which I enjoy doing, speeches in Parliament, or you can also get off of Westminster, start taking up issues.
This is TikTok politics, though, isn't it?
I think you've got to listen to the public, and sometimes you've got to shame the authorities into taking action. I've done this about litter in Birmingham. I've done it about tradesmen having their vans broken into and their tools nicked. I think this is an important way of raising issues.
Robert Jenrick, thank you very much for your time this morning.